All right. Yes. All right, everything is good. You're on the air.
All righty, meeting call to order. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd. It is now 7:12 PM. Town Council meeting via Zoom. Mary Ann?
You want prayer?
Yeah, we haven't done prayer or pledge
Okay,
allegiance.
all right. Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messier,
Here.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico,
Yeah.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
There is a quorum. Discussion, action, vote of town council. Any matter on this portion of the agenda may be acted upon by way of topic discussion and action by the town council with a vote on record to approve, amend, deny, or table the agenda item. Discussion regarding actions and planning pertaining to addressing COVID-19 virus and the impact on town operations.
Actually, before we go to that item, can I ask the solicitor if we would like to add an item to the agenda? Is it appropriate to do it at this time? I know that we are allowed to amend the agenda.
What type of issue or matter do you want to amend?
It is actually to approve a license for a parade through town that has been discussed with the school department, the police department, and the town to be held on Saturday. So we need a permit. The state of Rhode Island is issuing a permit, I think, David, tomorrow.
All paperwork's been filed and hopefully we'll have a signature by 9 AM.
I'm assuming this is for the kids?
It's to celebrate the class of 2020.
Yeah, I would say that in light of the COVID-19 issues and the latitude that the governor has provided for open meetings, I would think that that's appropriate at this time.
I'm not sure where we add that on the agenda. If
You could put it right now by asking the council to place it prior to the discussion of COVID-19. You can make it part of the discussion for COVID-19, or you can wait till the end. It's up to you.
Let's get it over with.
Well, then I guess we would, if we could place it as, I guess, item 1, or maybe we make it.
I would suggest make it part A of item 1, because it's definitely related to the COVID-19 issue.
Okay.
Not on that topic, but on adding something to the agenda, Tim. Would it be appropriate to add something into the agenda to discuss the ongoing situation right now with all the riots and the looting? And I know there's a lot of questions the council's been asked tonight.
I think the council president will address those issues, but again, because of the emergency nature of that particular item, Councilman Messier, I believe it's appropriate for the town council president to address those issues.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure we were going to talk about it. That's all.
All right, let's not get overexcited here. It is
So
under Ernie's COVID-19 report. He will be going into
That's
the
fine.
current situation along with that. So we'll go on with the parade first, then we'll get into COVID, then we'll get into
That's fine.
the other situation.
Thank you.
So I would make a motion that the council approve any license necessary from the town for the class of 2020 to hold a parade through town on Saturday, beginning, I believe, at 2 o'clock. It has been coordinated with the school system, and I believe we do need a permit. The state permit will be received before that, but we won't meet again. So I would make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. A map was supplied to the state DOT, and we'll be supplying the students and the parents with that map through the school department. Karen Tavasevich and her group are ready to go, and I think if I seen one email today, so the students will be announced that the parade will be Saturday, the day after graduation, and it should be about an hour to an hour and a half long.
And it's a celebration celebration of what, you know, it's different than anything that's been done before, but the class of 2020 has certainly endured a whole heck of a lot more than any of us did or any recent classes have endured. So it's a special celebration.
Councilwoman, are other cities and towns also doing the parade on the same day?
I don't know that.
Okay.
This has really just been internal. I do know that there have been some cities and towns that have done something along those lines, but we had a discussion, a call today, and it's to make this graduation weekend, because virtual graduation is actually at 7 o'clock on Friday night, and to have this on Saturday afternoon with the help of the police and the school department. It really is just to celebrate the class of 2020.
I think Coventry actually, I think did this today, I believe. I saw on Facebook. So it was
Okay.
similar. I don't know if it's exactly the same. Are we going to be involved at some point as far as being on like a town hall or in some capacity? Are they asking the council to be to support in some way?
Well, people will meet at the high school civic center area. There'll be more information coming, but it'll be at a 2 o'clock start on Saturday. That's the schedule that we intend to put out.
Awesome.
Can we
Keep
get a
us up.
copy of the map?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It does encompass it encompasses the entire town, and Chief Knott has been very accommodating in having the police available, so red lights aren't incurred, people can don't interrupt it. So I think it's well thought out and should be a nice celebration for the kids.
Yeah, keep us all
Excellent.
updated. I mean, I'd love to get the
Absolutely.
word out there. Get the word out there. Maybe we can get a lot of local businesses and residents to kind of stand outside the house and support these kids.
And I think that's why, again, why we put it on as an emergency sort of thing tonight, so we could get the word out sooner rather than later.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary Beth.
All right, any other comment on that? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes?
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
And does Ernie want to do an update on COVID?
Well, you got to read that.
Oh, I already did, but discussion regarding actions and planning pertaining to addressing COVID-19 virus and the impact on town operations.
Ernie?
Yes, good evening. The state has moved into phase 2 of its reopening RI plan. And the effect on our operations are a few areas. On June 1st, the guidelines for reopening of governmental organizations were issued. And we're on the Opening Rhode Island website. There are 8 pages with, I think, 35 different links for attachments to that. Basically, the governor is requesting that governments, local governments prepare reopening plans, to prepare and implement reopening plans to resume in a phased operation. And that's many of the items are things that have been discussed before, the basic safety precautions, social distancing, wearing face masks, as well as cleaning regimens for employees and our visitors and citizens that will come to town hall. So at the present time, we'll be working on policies centering around face mask wearing, screening of temperatures for employees, and eventually visitors to town hall when we eventually open up for a face-to-face contact with our customers. We'll be fitting many of our areas that need them with the plexiglass screens, areas that will have that direct contact with citizens and employees. In areas where we need a barrier between employees, we have been and we will be putting them up. So ultimately, each building of town hall will have a plan for reopening. And some may reopen sooner than others. The Civic Center may reopen sooner than other buildings. So this is what we're working on the process at the present time. I've requested that all the directors that have been working at home, part-time, return to work on a full schedule status so that we can begin assessing and planning for the return of full operations, as well as deputies that have, offices or areas that, meet the whatever, requirements that we need to set up. Eventually, we will be having our full staff coming back once we have all of our precautions and necessary precautions in place. Now, I'm in regular, I participate in many various calls, one with the governor's office, state agencies, local officials, one with local officials from the League of Cities and Towns, mayors, managers. And to my knowledge, there are only 2 towns that are open at the present time. Most are in the process now of reviewing the documents that we've received and are preparing their plans for the phase-in operations. Most have indicated that at the soonest, during a phase 3 timeframe may be appropriate, but no one has made that commitment yet as to when they're going to be opening. It depends on what types of facility, what type of improvements need to be made in the work environment. If items are on order, then there may be a delay in opening one of the buildings. So at the present time, that's what we are going to be. We have been and we will be engaged with developing this reopening plan. Also, some of the guidance that have come up very recently is I believe on May 28th, the guidance was issued as to reopening for youth recreation leagues, and I believe either yesterday or today, adult recreation leagues, or I don't know if it's called leagues or programs. So those are out, and we are reviewing those to see what impact they will have. But certainly they will have an impact on the Civic Center. They will have an impact on our programs, for the baseball programs, softball programs, and so on. For example, the guidelines indicate that the recommendation is to have no outside facilities like restrooms open, because you have the problem of keeping those clean. You would have to have someone there basically the whole time making them clean. So that's one of the issues that we see, as well as the alternative, porta john. Well, how do you keep those clean? So we're going to be working through these issues, as well as again other cities and towns are, to determine what is the most feasible, logical, and the best way that we can accomplish opening up our facilities, and having restrooms if possible as we go forward. And one of the benefits of having these regular calls with the cities and towns is we're all in the same boat. So we talk among each other ourselves, what is the best practice, or because everyone's doing something. I think everyone's situation is a little unique. Some are coastal communities, some have swimming pools, camping facilities. So they're all different, but they're all the same in certain ways. So again, that's what we're going to be doing now. We are making now a concerted effort to get fields ready, in the sense that if any repairs need to be made, we're working on that. And again, our priority with the staffing we have has been on things such as yard waste and other items. And what we find is many communities are sort of like us, with the understanding through our discussions and meetings that there may be no formal league play or play in fields. And up until very recently, that's sort of the direction. And then the last week or so, that changed, which is fine. We're happy that it changed. We're happy that we can have youth and then ultimately some adults programs up and running. But again, you have all the guidelines of no more than 15 individuals, no more, and they have to be the same individuals. So many are coaches, so many can be younger players. So again, there are a whole host of regulations for the leagues, as their own disinfectant of equipment and so on. But again, now that these guidelines are out, we are going to make the effort, concerted effort to get our fields ready to go and play as quickly as we can, and identify what we need to do as a town to have facilities up and ready, and then what do we have to do as far as ourselves when we are the provider of a field. So those are the items that are going on right now as far as the operations go, COVID-19. So again, what I can summarize by saying, we are working on a plan for each building, with a whole host of required elements, and we have to have the plan available for review when asked, and we assume we'll be asked. So we're going to do the best plan that we can. Each building, some buildings may open sooner than others to the public. We're hoping the Civic Center can open sooner than maybe other departments. But again, we'll see how that all plays out. And we'll be working on retrofitting our buildings where we need to, and bringing back employee goals to bring back everyone to the full employment and get ready for the eventual reopening of town government to the citizens. But again, as what people say, may be a little different. We're going to have the plexiglass screens. We're going to have a 6 feet delineation for somebody comes into the tax office, 6 feet apart, just like stores do in other operations. So this will be part of our plan. So again, this will be a big focus and a big push going forward. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer that, and then answer those questions and move into.
Ernie, I have a question. Ernie?
Yes.
Going forward, I know we're going to summer hours with our employees.
Yes.
Is that going to affect anything with the COVID-19?
Well, basically for the employees that we have who are working full-time or part-time, they will be leaving a half an hour early. So rather than 4:30 closing time, it'll be 4. So that's the change. And these are mostly for office workers, clerical staff, and the other outlying departments. So that's the only notice, but that really is not COVID related, other than there's less individuals in the workplace.
But I mean, I'm just curious, because I mean, it's just been brought to me again about the essential workers at the sewer plant that are working 40, and if other people are working 20, does that mean they're working 17 and a half?
Well, they're working a reduced rate. I believe that is changing. If it's not changing today, it's going to be changing very, very soon.
Okay.
I was in contact with the superintendent today about, directors and assistants coming in, and we had a communication about their operation. So that may be changing soon.
Okay.
So, Bernie, I'm sorry, I had to shut my camera off because the lines and the blurriness. I can't restart my computer right now, or I'll lose the meeting. But when you sent out an email the other day about all directors being back to work full-time and assistant directors, so that's every department, correct?
Yes, I was able to contact most. Those that I haven't personally contacted, I'll be sending an email out after this meeting, but I think most of them are back, or will be back. And then, so again, the theory behind that is they'll be back. Many of them have the offices, some of them have offices, so again, there's less contact, as well as now that we've seen the plateau and the number of cases going down, and we're feeling comfortable that we can restore that workforce. And there are some areas that we need to have, at least some plexiglass in some other areas. And once we have those things done, plus the actual plan for each building then we can, bring back everyone to a full status.
Thank you. Any other questions on the COVID-19 before Ernie brings up another situation?
Any change in any financial reports we have to file? Does everybody have enough PPE? Any changes in that regard? Any money that we may have received or will receive?
Well, right now.
Impact on budgets, that kind of thing?
That we've received no funding yet. We've been submitting reports to the local EMA, who is coordinating the reports for expenditures, putting them together on behalf of the cities and towns and probably everyone else, fire districts, everyone else. So we're putting our numbers together, information together. We have not received any reimbursement. I'm not sure when that would come in. I wouldn't expect it too soon. So again, we are expending with the anticipation of receiving 75% back and maybe in some categories, maybe 100% back. It depends. There's different programs to apply for. So, we're doing that. We also are looking at the possibility of hiring a firm to assist us with the information gathering, the data gathering. So we're not losing out on potential reimbursement requests. So we're at the preliminary phase of that. Many communities, a number of communities have done that. A number of communities have sworn by doing that because there's, complicated programs and what's available, what's not. And, some communities are doing that and recommend others do that. So we're going to take a look at that. And if we feel it's feasible and warranted, then we'll make a recommendation to the council for that. As well as the PPE, it's primarily now with the police and fire. I know they have been receiving allotments for them. So we're going to have the same type of equipment that police and fire have for our town employees. We do have the basics, hand sanitizers and things like that. Masks, I think we're okay. Many employees have their own now. They have their own masks that are more comfortable and warranted and so on. So we have the basics now. We have a machine that does this cleaning, like a deep cleaning, like a fogging machine. We have ordered one of those, and that's back ordered. So I'm not sure when we're going to get that. So when we do our plan for reopening our plan, we may have a company come in and do a deep cleaning periodically, maybe once a week or whatever, when the weekends or something or before Monday. So we're looking at that and, doing that and then how many times a week. So again, we're working on those type of elements as well, but to the best of my knowledge, we are doing okay. I will defer to Chief Varone and Chief Knott Colonel Knott for the police and fire department aspects of their planning and the materials they have and any other items they'd like to bring to the council and community's attention.
And so just quickly with the grant submission, the federal government puts it through the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency, and I have been in contact with other emergency managers in other communities, and there's a discrepancy as to what Rhode Island EMA is allowing and what the national thought might be. So we're looking right now at hiring a company to make sure that we get all that is due to us. Right now, from the fire department aspect of it, we have a little over $80,000 that we could apply for through that grant. The way REMA is explaining it, we have over, if we add in everything else throughout the town, $350,000 worth of submissions. So I think it's prudent at this time to just investigate if it's better to hire that company to come in and be able to help us facilitate our grant submission.
I'll give you an example. There are two programs out there. One is 100% reimbursement, one is 75%. And there seems to be some, I won't say confusion, but what is the best program to apply for the specific item? You know, can you get 100% from this program or 75% from this program? So again, those are the types of, some example of some of the questions that local governments are asking. You know, what's the best way to do the reimbursements to maximize the amount of money coming back to the communities?
If a consultant were to be hired, how would they be paid? Is it a fee for service, or is it a contingency basis? How would that work?
So I believe what the other communities have done is they put an RFP out. So I think the best thing to do would be to piggyback on one of the RFPs from one of the other communities. And I don't know exactly, that would be the most expedient thing, as long as we can do that. You know, but I'm not, it's a percentage or a fee based.
Right. At this time, we're not sure.
So, and some of the things that we would be putting in from that 80,000 for the PPE, AFG FEMA has a 90-10 split on some of that. So we did apply to that, and we were given the guidance that if we do get that, if we get both, we can pretty much give back in future expenses from the other grant. I'm using my hands a lot.
That's fine.
So.
Thank you. Colonel, do you have any updates on your coronavirus expenses or how it's affecting your department?
Sorry. Yeah, so far, I think we're in pretty good shape. I remain essentially fully staffed without people that are out for COVID-related incidents or sickness. I think we're probably just under $7,000 in expenses just for the police department. A majority of that is overtime for replacement of a few personnel while they were getting tested, but mostly for maintenance personnel to do their cleaning and disinfecting of police cars every morning and taking care of our building. So we're in good shape. You know, we had one direct award of a $42,000 that I utilized to get some equipment to help us with online reporting and to be able to redeploy some support personnel to front line should I need to do that. But Chief Barone is doing a good job monitoring the overall grant available for the entire town for PPEs and those related expenses. And we're fine with supplies as of now.
I guess one other question would be, do we coordinate the town effort with the schools, if or is it a separate filing that has to be done? Is it all brought together in one filing? I'm not sure how that.
So it was all brought together, and like the Chromebooks and some of the other ancillary expenses, you know, the larger expenses that we were told were not part of the grant by REMA. Other people think that it should be part of the grant. It is part of the federal part of it. So I think that, you know, again, we need the guidance to make sure that we're making the right decisions when we do our submission.
Yeah, it'd be hard to say that Chromebooks couldn't be included in that, given the distance learning and all that has gone along with that.
Yeah.
Well, if there are no further questions, talk about the recent events occurring within the state and city of Providence with the basically rioting and looting that had occurred late yesterday, evening and early morning. But based upon the most recent information that we have, I will be declaring a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Just tonight into tomorrow. And as soon as this meeting is over, I will write the executive order declaration for that purpose.
Marty, can
Colonel
you
Knott is
explain the
here
parameters of the
online
curfew?
and can discuss a little bit, but probably not too much. But based upon the information that we have, it is a prudent decision to have a curfew within the town during those hours. There's been a lot of talk today about where possible locations could be for a inappropriate activity, and they could be on our borders. So,
Could you, I think, could you explain further, just so I know, we're gonna get a lot of questions as far as what the curfew, can, like, if businesses are still open, they can still drive home. What will residents of West Warwick, what should they expect as far as the curfew, and where should they not be after 10 o'clock? And for how long is it 7 days?
no, it's just for today, just for this evening and tomorrow, and we will evaluate it. But again,
So today-
it's pretty much like common sense. If you're working, when you leave work, you go home. There shouldn't be any loitering around in large groups. So basically what we want is people off the streets, regular people off the streets, so it makes it a little bit easier to identify those who may need closer attention. But I will ask the Colonel to make any comments that he would like, or maybe address your question.
Yeah, and again, I'll defer to Colonel Knott. I think you might as well make it for a few days, but again, I'll ask Colonel Knott if he thinks that's a good idea. I think beyond tonight, maybe even for a few days or a week. Chief Knott, what are your thoughts on that?
But overall, I think the intelligence that's come out sort of predicts that there are going to be issues at least through Friday night. So however a curfew gets established and put out there, I anticipate having some heightened response and awareness at least through Friday night. And essentially, like the town manager said, the curfew is more or less asking our public to refrain from being out in public without a purpose. Obviously, you're free to travel to and from work and to do essential errands, but as far as just wandering the streets without a purpose and showing up at scenes that we consider a hot spot is not justified. It'll obviously help them stay safe. It'll help us do our job more safely and effectively, so we can target the people who need that extra attention. And like the town manager said, I don't want to disclose what the intelligence is because they'll just relocate it somewhere else. But it is kind of hovering on our borders, and we want to make sure we do our best to keep it out of West Warwick.
Is there anything else us as a council can do to help you guys out?
No, I think just getting it out there. Obviously, if this is approved, I'll put out a code red notification. I may record it during the end of this meeting and get it out there. Just asking for the public's compliance with it for now, and also to reach out if they see any suspicious activity through our main number or 911 if it looks like a volatile situation.
And I just want to point out to the council and to everybody on here, and it is a public meeting. Again, during these times, let's let the police department and the fire department and public safety do their jobs. We as council people will have to answer questions, but at this time, less information. Just speaking about the actual curfew, one thing, but as Chief Knott said, they have intel and conversations of what's going on, and personally, they need to keep that to themselves, and we can go from there.
Chief, is there any way, can you give us send us an email with a short script? Because obviously, Councilman Messier is right. We're going to get a lot of questions and maybe some pushback. But again, I don't want to say anything that's trying to deliver a message that isn't true. So if you could send us something, that would be great.
Sure. I hand wrote during the beginning part of the meeting, what I'd probably put out for a code red, but I'll type that out and send it to everybody. If not during the meeting, shortly thereafter, before I put the call out.
So the times, does the times work for you, Chief, as far as like the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.? Does that work?
I think so. Last night, the experience in Providence was, you had legitimate, peaceful protest. up until shortly after, 11 o'clock. You watch the 11 o'clock news and everything appeared orderly and fine. And then suddenly just before midnight, chaos broke out. So I think, 10 o'clock is adequate. And, by 6 o'clock, people are already out walking and getting their morning exercise. Obviously, we're not looking to harass or bother the legitimate people doing their livelihood and exercise, but we just want to keep that extra level of protection to keep our citizens safe.
Awesome. Do we need to make a motion, or is this just something that, Ernie, you can just make as your own executive order where we don't have to vote on it?
I believe that I can make it under my authority, especially with the ability for declarations of emergencies. I believe I can do that. I will speak to the colonel after the meeting to see if it should be one night or a series of nights as that was discussed. And then we can let the council know what that decision is.
Thank you to both of you.
You're welcome.
On to the next one.
Again, any other questions for Ernie or the chief? I know Councilman D'Amico, you're trying to speak, but you're breaking up really bad. And
No, I'm just listening, to be honest.
okay. All right, thank you. Marion, go ahead.
Okay. Ordinance 2020-7, first reading, sponsored by Council President Goslin, and ordinance amending Section 5 Use Regulations, 5.3 Table of Use Regulations, non-residential districts, J, other business uses, 1, hotels and motels, transient of the zoning code of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Al, are you on? I see Al, but I don't have the ability to mute or unmute anymore.
Yes, unmute. Can you unmute him?
I can't.
Oh. Al.
Trying to,
Here you go.
okay. Yeah, the question came up recently with, in the zoning situation. And our zoning code under other business uses says hotels and motels / transient. I have absolutely no idea why that word transient was put in. I discussed it with David, and we define hotel, we define motel, and they're a pretty regulated operation. Transient, no matter where you look it up, basically says passing through. There's no regulation, no defining of it. So
Should it
to be
supposed to be transient?
What?
Is it supposed to be transient?
It is transient.
Is it?
That's
Okay.
what the word is. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's just a matter of leading us to, we're saying basically that some kind of an unregulated thing can occur in the town. I have no idea why it was there. I discussed it with David, and it's just a matter of trying to clean up our zoning code, which has a lot of these problems, and just remove that word transient and accept the fact that we're going to have hotels and motels.
So that's all that this does is
All it does.
exclude transient from the ordinance.
Right.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
all it is.
Any questions for Al on that? Any public comment on that? I'll give you a second to raise your hand. Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes,
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Ordinance 2020-8, first reading, sponsored by Council President Goslin, an ordinance amending Appendix C traffic ordinances of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick. Location, Cross Street, sign, no parking. Description, no parking sign on east and west sides of Cross Street. from intersection with Main Street to intersection with Branch Ave.
Move the ordinance.
Second,
Moved and seconded, discussion?
This cross street is a very, very short street running between between East Main and Branch. I discussed this with Major Ashenbo. He's been out looking at it, and I believe President Goslin has looked at it. And it's a situation where the parking creates a problem there. So Major Ashenbo requested that I prepare an ordinance making this tiny little street, no parking on either side.
And this street actually has no parking on one side. It was actually passed by the council years ago. Then it was brought back to the council to have no parking on both sides. And there was an issue where they couldn't be able to put signs up on one side because there's no telephone poles or anything. So we have to strategically place a no parking on the other side of the street. There's two houses there. They are multifamily houses, two duplexes, I think. So the no parking signs on one side were never installed either. So right now, people from other sections of the neighborhood are parking on that street and blocking in the residents, and they're trying to get out of their driveways. And it is a thin, narrow road, and they can't get in and out of their driveways, or they're afraid they're going to back into a car or worse. Any other comment on that? Hearing none. Any public comment? Hearing none. I'll take.
Steve?
What?
Sorry, go ahead.
Roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
yes.
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Resolution for fees and charges of the Town of West Warwick wastewater treatment facility, sponsored by Councilman Licciardi.
Move the resolution.
It's come to my
Second.
attention.
Moved and seconded. Jay?
I'd like to table this. It's come to my attention that some of the wording needs to be updated. So I'd rather not move forward until we figure out exactly what is supposed to be said in here.
Well, this is what has been in for many, many years. It got here, I received a call from Jim Jeremiah. Apparently, from him, it had been brought to the council. I prepared it, sent it to him, sent it to Christine, and I think if Christine is here, she can better go forward with an explanation. All I did was, my function in this was drafted. So if there's some explanation, Jason, about language or what have you, I defer to Christine on that.
Is Christine on?
She had some trouble getting in. I'm not sure that, yes, she is on. But I think actually, Jason, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard the same thing. While the fee schedule is correct, that some of the
The numbers are
language,
correct.
yeah, some
Yes,
of the
it's the language.
language and the labeling of the fees themselves have changed, and this should be updated. So
Yes.
I
So before we
it
go
probably-
forward twice,
Right.
I'd rather just table it and do it once.
So certain language is not correct, you're saying, Jason?
I spoke with Jim Jeremiah late after, prior to the meeting. And Jim had mentioned, we talked about a few different things. And he's, him having been around for a long time, is looking at some of the wording being updated. So I just like to take it back and revisit it before this comes to the council again.
Okay.
Jason, you've spoken with Jim on this?
Yes.
All right, well, then with the council's, okay, I would suggest that it be continued to your next meeting. And in the interim, I will get in touch with Jim, make the amendments and get it back to the council so you can act on it at your next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Al.
I have a motion to table. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
There wasn't a second for that, was there?
Yeah, there
So I
was.
will,
Yeah,
It
it
was
was.
actually,
Hey, David, would that table be tabled until the next meeting?
until it gets straightened out.
Because I will have it.
Done within 2 weeks, so
So I guess,
we
yes.
should be all right.
So I had a motion to table, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. And I think we'll be all right within the next 2 weeks.
I'll have it to you by then.
Okay. I'll
Will
take,
you make sure I'm on that loop of the
course.
changes? Please, thank you.
okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
This is a yes on tabling, a roll call.
Tableman, yes.
Okay, yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
yes,
long to say that one.
I know it's hard, sorry.
And Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
Fiscal year 2021 budget for regional wastewater treatment facility, resolved that the attached is adopted as a regional wastewater treatment facility budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021, in the amount of $9,325,341 for operations, maintenance, and debt service.
I make a motion that we approve the 2021 fiscal year budget as presented and reviewed at 2 public hearings and 1 budget
Second.
workshop.
Second.
Who seconded it?
Councilman Messier. Any discussion on that? Any public discussion on the sewer budget? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
I'm going to vote yes, but I just want to make a point, and the same point I've been bringing up, I don't know, for the last 6 or 7 months, that we're going to be looking at for next year, the amount that goes to the town and the justification that the sewer department provides to the town for services.
okay,
So I
Councilman,
am going to vote yes.
Fair enough.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes,
and Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Consent
actually,
agenda-
nice job putting that budget together.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, license applications, resolved that the consent agenda, having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed of or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the license applications.
Second,
I'm gonna recuse myself.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the licenses? Any public comment on licenses?
Just want to make sure you got my recusal, right, Mary Ann? Thank you.
Being no public comment, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
yes,
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Resolution approving the medical stop loss insurance to Blue Cross Blue Shield in the amount of $878,534 for the period of 1 year for the town of West Warwick and West Warwick Public Schools combined renewal of stop loss insurance to commence July 1st, 2020.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
actually, I would ask that Ernie and or Kristen go over this a little bit. This is obviously a significant expense, and maybe explain the process and when this kicks in, so people will understand that.
So this is, well, we do this yearly. Gallagher goes out to bid for our stop loss rates. It is incorporated into our working rates, which actually had a very small increase for this year. So it's effective July 1st. So it's not an outright, not like an additional expense on top of what we're budgeting for health. It's built into our health number.
So it's built into the working rates for healthcare.
Correct.
And just briefly, so people understand what actually stop loss does.
So stop loss is prevents the town from being exposed to huge losses for huge illnesses, catastrophic illnesses, where, you know, the healthcare costs could go, you know, into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it prevents it provides relief from exposure to those kind of claims.
And is it on an individual basis and an aggregate basis? How does this particular plan work?
So this is, it's on here. So it is on an aggregate spec, but it's the max is 175,000. And also the other positive to going with the Blue Cross Blue Shield is that because we have our admin costs with them, we get an additional discount on top of that. Kind of like, you know, when you have your home and auto with a company, you get additional discount. So that brought that bid down to the winning number, basically, to the lowest number with the additional discounts because we have our admin with them.
So did the per member per month cost come down, or the actual working rate?
So the working rate in total is going up a smidge. I think it's
okay, maybe
1.2, 1.5, between 1.5 and 2%. It's very nominal for this year. But that working rate wasn't, you know, spec'd out with us picking Blue Cross Blue Shield.
And that 175, so is that is if I were a town employee and my medical bills got to over 175, this would kick in. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi?
Yes.
Councilman Messier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson?
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Discussion and ratification order 2020-6 of the town manager, amending executive order 2020-1, a declaration of a state of emergency dated March 16th, 2020, to extend the state of emergency in the town of West Warwick until Thursday, July 9th, 2020.
Well, thank you, Mary Ann. That's it. This is the basic, the first executive order to establish the ability to have to declare an executive order and the different powers that go with that. And we are extending it on a monthly basis. So this would be until July 9th. And based upon what we see happening is that the governor's executive order will be in for some time, declaration of emergency, and we will just follow that process as long as the state is in that state of emergency. We will be in a local state of emergency as well.
Oh, Ernie, do we need a motion for that, by the way?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you went pretty fast out of the gate. Do I have a motion?
I'll second. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Everybody heard Ernie. Any questions for Ernie?
And there is the ability to pull this back if indeed the state decides to remove there. I agree with you, Ernie. I doubt that will happen between now and July 9th, but.
That is correct. Either the council or myself at any time can amend and revoke this executive order.
Thank you.
All right, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi?
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Public comment, designated portion of town council's open meeting for citizens to address comments to the town council relating to matters affecting the public business. Comments will only be addressed to the town council, who will take them under advisement. When addressing the town council, please state your name and address. Please conduct yourself in an orderly and respectful fashion. The comments of citizens accessing this portion of our meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by this body, but heard as requested. Members of the town council, being the duly elected public body as identified in Rhode Island General Law 42-46-23, have no obligation to respond to the public's comments.
Any public comment, please raise your hand and I'll give you the ability to speak if it gives me that ability. I do not see any hands.
Council
Joe.
President, could I add, since there's nothing there? Before I lose you, I just sent the email with the draft code red notification to everybody. If everyone has a chance to review that, and Solicitor Williamson, if they can get it back to me, I'll try to get it out before 9 p.m. tonight.
Councilman, one other thing.
Yes.
Just wanted to thank Derek Reed and Reed Landscaping. They came and did some work around Town Hall the other day, and I was really appreciated. So just want to say thank you to them.
I was unaware of that. Thank you.
At the risk of incurring the wrath of the solicitor, is there time to have a short discussion about yard waste and where we are and where we should go?
I would not suggest that, because people that may want to inquire of the council via public comment or normal comment, it's not on the agenda. So I think this one, you'd have a little more of a problem with the Open Meetings Act adding this at this time of the meeting.
Something that needs to be addressed. So if that's the case,
I don't
that's the case,
disagree.
but-
I don't disagree, but again, without any type of forewarning that it was going to be discussed tonight, you may have a group of people out there that are very interested in this issue that would have taken part of the meeting. And because it wasn't on the agenda, should you start discussing it now, you could face a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
We wouldn't want to do that, but to suffice it to say you are correct. There are a number of people who have a great interest in that. And so we will hold off on that.
That does not prevent the town manager and or department head from DPW from addressing it online. If that might be a way to appease those individuals that have questions. Because I think the council's all going to support what you want to discuss, but I think at this point in time, it would be considered a violation because it wasn't put on the agenda.
All right. We'll address that at a later date, maybe tomorrow. I do have somebody
Thank you.
raising their hand. I do not have the ability to let them speak. So if somebody wants to take control. Joe, who are you still here? Because I'm no longer a panelist.
He should, yeah, no, he should still, Derek, you should be able to talk.
Yep, Derek should be able to talk.
All right, Chief, I just wanted to come on and say thanks for showing the appreciation. Try to do the best we can. That's about it.
Good job.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Have a good night and be safe, everyone.
Yeah, everybody stay safe out there tonight.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.